with Meditech. Who do we have on the line so far?
This is Margaret Libertini from Kingman Regional.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch your name. Where are you calling from exactly?
Margaret from Kingman Regional.
All right. All right, so it's it looks like it's 7 past 30, minutes past 2:30. So I think we can go ahead and get started. It looks like right now we only have, it looks like Michael Halari and Margaret Libertini. Hope I'm saying it right. Sorry if I'm not.
You are, but it looks like I'm not going to be in this webinar. We're going to be doing the 6.1 platform.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, we do have a webinar that goes over the auto-generated deficiencies for the 6.1 platform. But essentially, I mean, to be honest with you,
wrong one.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I believe the next one for 6.1 is right around the corner. I don't know the exact date, but it is right around the corner. But just so you know, I mean, the functionality, there are just, some minor differences, but the functionality is essentially the same. Some of the dictionaries may be a little different, may have been updated, but in terms of workflow, nothing has really changed. So not sure if you wanted to just sign up for the 6.1 specifically, or if you wanted to stay for the 6.0. That's obviously entirely up to you.
Okay, I will stay in here right now, and then we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Michael, can you hear me okay? Hey, Mike, are you there? Can you hear me okay? I'll make sure you're able to hear me. Okay. All right. I did see your chat. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name's Eden Sherry. I'm a senior application specialist for the HIM and scanning and archiving application here at Meditech. So today we'll be going over auto-generated deficiencies. So auto-generated deficiencies, what that is, deficiencies that are automatically generated from various applications within Meditech. So this negates the need to, manually complete or generate these deficiencies. So that entire process is an automated one. The HIM Incomplete Records desktop is used to monitor and track these various deficiencies. So we'll be going over the HIM Incomplete Records desktop to start. But before we do, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with everyone so you guys are able to see my screen okay. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. All right, so I'm gonna access the incomplete records desktop. So this is where, medical records this is where medical records is, tracking and monitoring the various deficiencies that can come from those various applications we discussed. So today we'll be going over auto-generated deficiencies coming from the MRM application. So these deficiencies would have a source of MRM within the incomplete records desktop. We'll also be going over OM, auto-generated deficiencies. These are ones that are tied to electronic orders. We'll also go over ITS, auto-generated deficiencies. These are ones that are tied to your standard radiology ITS reports. The source of MIS would indicate that the deficiency is for a PDOC report. Because PDOC reports can stem from various applications, the MIS source is usually an indication that it's not just a regular or standard ITS report, but a PDOC report. And lastly, we'll go over the ADM auto-generated deficiencies. These are deficiencies that are generated based on admissions for a particular ITS or PDOC report. So if a history and physical, for example, was a mandatory document that was always necessary for a certain patient type, whenever a certain patient type got admitted into the hospital, we can have the system automatically generate the shell of that report along with the associated deficiency at a pending status. So those deficiencies would have a source of ADM to indicate that it stemmed from the admission application. And in 6.1, these sources are the same, except in 6.1, because a lot of the applications are MAT. For example, the ADM source deficiencies would display as reg instead of ADM, and also the deficiencies that are tied to a scan document, instead of MRM, it would show up as HIM in 6.0 because the scanning desktop is housed within the HIM application in 6.0 rather than MRM in 6.0. Make sense so far?
Okay.
All right, so before we go over auto-generated deficiencies, here is where a user is able to manually create a deficiency. Now, the deficiencies that are created here aren't tied to any electronic report. They're mainly used as notification to a physician to complete a certain report or remind them of something that needs to be completed. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up just a random account from within the system and assign a manual deficiency. By using the plus button, I'm able to evoke the deficiency field. This looks up the deficiency dictionary. So the deficiency dictionary, if we go into the deficiency dictionary here, this dictionary defines the various reasons that cause a document to become incomplete, a document or order to be incomplete. So there are various entries that are already built here. So I've been assigned scan document deficiency. See here. Oh, someone ended my session. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so here is a deficiency that was already created. Gave it a mnemonic, made it active, gave it a descriptive name. The signature deficiency field, this is a yes or no field, just indicating whether or not this is a deficiency that requires a signature. And it is set to yes, since this is a deficiency that will be sent to indicate to the provider that he or she needs to sign a certain document. None of these fields need to be filled out. And we'll revisit these fields when we talk about ADM, auto-generated deficiencies. The other field that needs to be filled out is this one here. This is the available date based on field. There are two options: discharge service date or source. That's the date that determines how long a deficiency is complete. So if you set it to discharge service date, then the count will begin when the patient is discharged. If you set it to source, then the count of incomplete will begin as soon as the deficiency is available or was created from the application in question. All right, so once the deficiency is created, we're able to pull it from this lookup here. So I am going to pull in just a random deficiency that was created. For example, complete H and you know what? Yeah, why don't we do complete H and P? So now these manual deficiencies are typically used for paper charts. If there was a paper chart that needed to be manually signed, we can initiate a deficiency to that provider, and the deficiency would flow to their incomplete record desktop to indicate that he or she needs to sign something. Now, again, be mindful that this deficiency is not tied to any electronic report, which means it's not auto-generated, and medical records would still there would need to be some form of communication outside of the system to manually complete the deficiency. So the communication outside of the system would mean that the provider would need to indicate to medical records that he or she has signed off on the report. But the notification itself can be viewed from PCM, Physician Care Manager, under the My Notices button. So if I pull in, let's see which patient I was working with. Okay, I was working with Test Susie. So here I can see the patient in question, Test Susie. And here is the deficiency in question, complete H and P. Notice the date available, the days incomplete. It's already 34 days incomplete because the date available, the date based on field in the deficiency dictionary was set to discharge service date for this particular deficiency, I believe, 1109. I believe so. Actually, that was for the signed scan document. It looks like they're referencing the same days incomplete, which means the complete H and P was in fact set up as with a date based on discharge service date. So which means that it's already 34 days incomplete. Here's the days delinquent. Manual. So this column here indicates that this is a manual deficiency, so it's not an auto-generated deficiency, and it would need to be manually completed. Here in the comment column, you can see the content associated to the deficiency. So the comment does flow over to PCM My Notices, where they're able to, the physician is able to kind of see additional information regarding the report in question. So this is a method that can be used for medical records to communicate to the provider for maybe reports that may have caused some type of confusion without the available comment. And the comment is also applicable for any other deficiencies. So both the manual deficiencies and any auto-generated deficiency. All right, so going back into the incomplete records desktop, if we, why don't we, hold 1 second. I'll go back into my notice list here. Okay, so going back into the incomplete records desktop, I'm going to pull up the same account. I think we're working with C480. All right, so let's pretend that the provider has already manually signed this document. Here would be the next step would be for medical records to manually complete this deficiency by entering a complete date of today and save. So this deficiency is no longer counting incomplete for this particular. So that was the manual deficiency with the source of HIM. You can see the source field of HIM to indicate that this deficiency originated from the HIM Incomplete Records desktop. So that is the only deficiency that can be manually edited here within the Incomplete Records desktop. Any auto-generated deficiencies should not be modified here within the Incomplete Records desktop. It should be handled within the originating application. So the next one we're going to go over is the MRM source deficiencies. These are the deficiencies that are tied to a scanned document. So we'll kind of go through the process of assigning a deficiency to a scanned document, and that's primarily done within the scanning desktop in MRM. Before the document gets sent to permanent storage, during the scanning process, users are able to assign an electronic signature to a scanned document while they're scanning. However, users are also able to do the same process through the forms management desktop or the process ICR desktop. For today's purpose, we're going to use the forms management desktop for now. I'm going to go ahead and pull in my account. All right, so I pulled up the account in question, and I've already assigned an electronic signature deficiency on one of the documents, so we can go ahead and kind of go through the process here. You'd want to start off by selecting New ICR, and again, here is in the reason field, it looks up to the deficiency dictionary, so I'm going to go ahead and pull in the SSD, the signed scan document that we created earlier on, and assign it to the Meditech provider, and then here again is the comment field. This comment will flow to the HIM Incomplete Records desktop, as well as PCM My Notices. All right, I've gone ahead and entered in the deficiency. The next piece is to choose a marker placement to continue. So we always want to choose a marker placement in an area of the form that's obviously not covering any pertinent information. Most sites typically have a universal, convention in terms of where they place these marker placements. The last step to make sure that your deficiency is saved, you want to select the Save ICR. I'm not going to go ahead and do so now. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. I do get that confirmation that ICR edits will be lost. Proceed. I'm going to say yes. So once the deficiency is saved, it will flow over to the HIM Incomplete Records desktop. So you can see this deficiency here. Please sign this document ASAP. It got transmitted to the HIM Incomplete Records desktop with the source of MRM. That source indicates that it's tied to a scanned document. And also in the source ID field, you can see the doc ID in question. This is the doc ID, the unique doc ID for this particular document that exists within the e-chart, the legal record. And you can also see the name of the particular form. It's the admissions physician order form. Now, as a physician, I'm able to access this account within PCM. It will show it both within the My Notices and the sign queue. Because this is not a manual deficiency, so it's tied to an electronic report, I'm able to hover over the deficiency, which will bring me to the actual scanned document in question. Here at this point, the provider has the option to reject the deficiency if it's not, if it's not his patient, or they can find the deficiency. So if they were to reject the deficiency, the deficiency would be flagged as rejected within this column here. It would be, and there would be an REJ to indicate that it's been rejected. at which point medical records would need to access the forms management work list. It would fall under this forms management work list here, or for someone to go in and process that account, that deficiency. When I say process, meaning the user would need to either delete the deficiency in question or reassign it to a correct provider. And that in turn is what updates the incomplete records desktop with whatever modification was done to that deficiency. So I'm going to go ahead and sign this scanned document, save the signatures. Gone ahead and signed the deficiency. And once you sign a deficiency, it should remove off of the provider's My Notices and should automatically complete here within the Incomplete Records desktop. And yes, we can see the date. This was an automated process where the system automatically entered the date the provider completed the deficiency. Excuse me, I would ask that if that mute your phone. You can hear some noise in the background, kind of distracting to the seminar.
Oh, it's so chic and modern. Yeah, or purple.
Yeah, Margaret, are you there? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. So that was the auto-generated deficiency that's stemming from the MRM application. Next, we're going to go over the OM application. These are deficiencies that are tied to electronic orders within the system. So in order for a deficiency to be generated when an order is entered and be tracked through the HIM Incomplete Records desktop, there is some setup involved. The setup is done within the clinical order category dictionary. So if we go under dictionaries, ordering, categories. So here in the order category dictionary, we use this dictionary to create order categories. Order categories are groups that identify and define different types of orders, such as chemistry, hematology, or stock. During the ordering process, users can search for orders by category to narrow down their order choices. Categories contain information that applies to all orders within the category. So here within the order category, there are the various entries that are already defined. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in just a random category of order, such as a lab order. And we want to go into the facility specific tab. And the parameters that we set here are distinguished by facilities. So we want to put the facility in question and pay attention to two fields. The first one, we can go in edit mode. The first one is the sign ICR reason field. This looks up to the deficiency dictionary where you create a deficiency called sign physician order. A very generic, deficiency. Some sites kind of can either make it very generic or make it as specific as possible in terms of the source of the order. Maybe it's a verbal telephone order. You can make it as specific as possible or very generic. So I went ahead and so here is where you want to pull in the deficiency in question. And the other piece is the electronically signed orders, whether this category of order is eligible for an electronic signature. We want to make sure we set this to yes so that it's available to be electronically signed. So those are the only two fields that are associated that would need to be set up in order to trigger a deficiency whenever an order within that category is entered. So I'm not going to go through the process of entering an order, but just understand that whenever an order is entered within that laboratory category, so or any orders in the laboratory category, would evoke the signed physician order deficiency to be tracked here. Once the physician electronically signs the order, the associated deficiency would automatically complete here within the HIM Incomplete Records desktop. Does that make sense to everyone? Margaret, Mike, does that make sense?
I think so. I'm following you.
Okay, so I didn't go through the process of entering an order, but if I run my deficiencies work list, we can see the various deficiencies that are associated to electronic orders. So here you can see our various deficiencies from OM. The OM source indicates that this is a deficiency that's tied to an electronic order. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull one just for visual purposes. So you can see the various orders, the source of OM. In the source ID, this is the order number for the particular order. And we can assign a comment to it that explains the provider's services. So as soon as the provider signs up on these electronic orders, it would automatically complete here within the HIM Incomplete Records desktop. So no manual intervention is needed from the medical record standpoint. These deficiencies should auto complete as soon as they're electronically signed.
So is there a day limit that they get to complete these?
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you.
Okay, is there a limit to how many days they have in order to complete the deficiencies?
Nope, there's no limit. These will stay on the HIM Incomplete Records desktop until they're completed.
Oh, okay. I thought we might, need to track how long it's taking them to complete them.
Yeah, so you can see here when I ran my deficiencies report or work list, you can see that, and this is you can see the various deficiencies that are outstanding, the days incomplete versus the days delinquent. So these deficiencies here are already 335 days incomplete and still waiting for an electronic signature. So there's no end date or due date for these deficiencies. As soon as the provider electronically signs these within their sign queue, that's what will automatically complete the associated deficiency.
Okay, so then it just keeps getting updated every day. Another day adds to it that they didn't complete it.
Sorry, I am having a hard time hearing. I couldn't quite catch that.
I know that I thought that we have something here where we give our providers a set time amount in order to complete their deficiencies. So is that something that you can flag in here? Like, let's say we give them 30 days and it goes over the 30. Is there like a message task or something that comes up saying that this person is over the limit?
Well, what you can do, are you utilizing the letter functionality where you're sending them letters reminding them of their incomplete record?
I do believe they are using that, or we're going to use that. We haven't, had Meditech yet. We're in the process. We're not going to go live until September 1st.
I see. Yeah, so there's not any additional automatic alert that would be sent to them. There would need to be some user intervention to remind them of their incomplete records. And so that's done through the letter routine within the provider management desktop. Okay. So we pull in a provider, for example, provider Meditech, and go into the letters routine. There's a prompt that says print appropriate letter, meeting days incomplete criteria. If we choose yes, then the system would print the letter that's most appropriate for the provider's most incomplete record. So based on the letters that you have set up within the HIM parameters, the system would evaluate that parameter and choose the letter that's most appropriate based on their most incomplete record. That's if you choose the yes option. However, if you choose the no option, you have the option to manually choose the letter that you want to send to the provider. So you could send them a 15-day letter or a 13-day incomplete letter. So, for example, I'm going to go ahead and send the 30-day letter and also send it to the PCM, their My Notices. So this letter will be sent over to the provider's notices to indicate that they have records that are at least 30 days incomplete. So you can see the format of the letter, and those letters are built within the MIS letter dictionary.
Okay. All right, just wanted to know that was available.
Okay. Yep, no problem. So just to kind of give you a visual, if we go into PCM here, and select all, you can see the letter. The letter is always going to be the first thing that appears to the providers in the provider's notices. You can see the status is new, so they haven't read this yet. Here, they will be able to view the letter. This is a reminder that the following records are incomplete for 30 days. Notice there's no data field. This letter doesn't indicate which account or which deficiency is incomplete, but you can set up your letter to insert specific data fields that pull in pieces of information when the letter is printed. So a data field like account number or the deficiency in question or days incomplete versus days. These are all data fields that can be pulled in so that the system automatically displays the accounts and the deficiencies that are incomplete for X amount of days. But obviously this letter doesn't have any specific data fields pull in to indicate which records are incomplete, but that is something that's possible.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so that was the OM auto-generated deficiencies. Next, we're going to go over ITS auto-generated deficiencies. And that's done through this missing documents feature here. I'm going to go ahead and pull in by the same account that I was working on. So there are some setups involved in order to utilize this missing documents button. This missing documents button is access driven within the HIM access dictionary. So to have access to this button, it must be enabled within the HIM access dictionary. The other piece is we must link a deficiency at a pending status for your standard ITS reports or your PDOC report. And that's done within the ITS report dictionary. So that's where I'm going to go first. So I'm going to pull in a deficiency in question here, like the ED PDOC report. So this is a PDOC report and not your standard ITS report, but where we want to pay attention to is this pending field here within the incomplete record reason section tab. So this looks up at the deficiency dictionary. It looks like a deficiency called complete emergency room note was created. It's a notification to the provider that they need to begin documenting on this PDOC report. So for your standard ITS report, a dictate deficiency would be set up here in the pending field. So the pending field is reserved for a dictate, for ITS reports, or something, named like complete PDOC report for a PDOC report. The draft field is reserved for assigned deficiency, something to indicate that he or she needs to fix the report. That's why we have the sign emergency room note deficiency indicated here. So that's the essential setup in order to utilize this missing document. The missing document button will insert the shell of a missing ITS report or PDOC report and trigger the deficiency that's associated at a pending status. So I'm going to go ahead and utilize this missing documents button here. We want to first select the department in question, in this case HIM. Here, notice the ITS report lookup. It doesn't list all of the reports that are built within the ITS report dictionary. It's only showing us the reports that have a deficiency tied to them at a pending status, which we know the emergency room report was one that we took a look at, which had a deficiency that was tied to it at a pending status. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this one for today's purposes and then assign it to the Meditech provider and save. So I saved, and now notice the deficiency with the source of ITS populates. Here we can see the ITS report number, and we can go ahead and save. So we created the shell of that missing PDOC report. So within the transcription is desktop, if I were to go here, we should be able to see the template. So here we can see it here. It's at a pending status. It hasn't been documented on, so it's still at a pending status, and the deficiency that's associated to the report at a pending status is available within the HIM Incomplete Records desktop. So from the physician standpoint, under under their notices, I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen here. I'm going to go ahead and pull in Test Suzy. Here we can see the deficiency for the PDOC report to notify the provider that they need to complete this emergency room report. We can hover on the deficiency in question and select the template. This will launch them into the PCM document screen where they can select the report template and begin documenting. So here I'm going to go ahead and select the adult assault report template. So I'm going to go ahead and just enter in all of this data that's already predefined and built from this report template. I'm going to go ahead and view and save. So I'm going to save it at a draft status for now. I'm not going to go ahead and electronically sign it. I'm just going to leave it in draft status because I do want to show you the sign emergency room deficiency that would automatically populate once the report reaches a draft status. So in the ITS report dictionary, if you remember, for this particular report, remember there's the sign emergency room note deficiency that should auto-populate once the report reaches a draft status. So now that the report is in a draft status and we've saved, I would expect the deficiency, the sign emergency room note deficiency, to automatically populate. And it did. So notice the first deficiency, the complete emergency room note, that one automatically completed. Notice the date 12/13 has been automatically entered. It means that the provider has completed the first piece of completing the report. And then the sign emergency room note deficiency automatically populated since the report was a draft status. So now I'm going to go back into the PCM application. And I'm going to go ahead and electronically sign this document. Okay, so it's telling me that this document is missing certain information based on the setup of this particular report. I don't know what that information is specifically based on the setup of this report. It sounds like this PDOC report is set up to require certain information to be documented. I'm not a PDOC specialist, so I'm not exactly familiar with the build of this particular report and going through the various data fields. So I'm not going to go ahead and do anything for now, but just understand that once this report is electronically signed, that's the action that would automatically complete this sign emergency room note deficiency here. So it would receive a complete date here automatically. And notice the source, MIS, that MIS source indicates that it's not your standard ITS report, but it's a PDOC report. Does that make sense to everyone so far? Mike, do you have any questions for me? Okay, so the last piece I'm going to go into is EDM efficiency. Those are the ones that are generated based on addition. So that, again, they're involved. The first is through the deficiency dictionary. So before I go there, just take a quick look at something. All right, so here, again, we can set this up for a PDOC report or a standard ITS report. So I'm going to go ahead and do it for a standard ITS report. So I'm going to pull in a dictate deficiency here. So, for example, let's see here, dictate history and physical report. All right, this is perfect. So we can see this is already set up. Signature deficiency, no. We want to set this field to no because it's not anything that needs to be signed. It's just something that needs to be dictated at this point. Use for ITS report field, we want to set this to yes, and then define the database, department, and the site for which this report exists. So in the ITS report, it looks up to the ITS report dictionary, and then we set the available date based on. So this is how the system knows which report automatically generate based on admissions. Once the deficiency is built, we want to go to the incomplete reasons dictionary in ADM under dictionaries, incomplete reasons, enter edit. Here we define the specific patient type that would generate a history and physical report that we just set up. So, for example, let's just pull in inpatient at any service. Here, this looks up at the deficiency dictionary, so this is where we can pull in the dictate H&P deficiency. We can also put in any other I know it says history and physical discharge summary reason, but it doesn't necessarily have to be H&P report or discharge summary report. It can be tied to any report that you would want to auto-generate based on admissions. Now, it would generate that report every time that particular patient type is admitted. So we'd want to make sure that if you are implementing this functionality, it would have to be a patient type that would always need or require such a report like the H&P. So I'm not going to go through the admissions process right now, but so we can kind of go just review, we can run the deficiencies report to see if there's any report-based admissions. Okay, so there aren't any ADM source deficiencies, but just understand that once the patient is admitted, the H&P deficiency here automatically flow to the HIM incomplete records desktop. So we would see it here in this HIM incomplete records desktop with a source of ADM. So the dictate H&P would show here with the source of ADM to indicate that it was generated based on admissions. We would also see the shell of that report, the H&P report, within the transcriptionist desktop. So here, within radiology here, we had a pending status that's waiting to be dictated. Once the report is dictated, the associated deficiency would automatically complete within the HIM incomplete records desktop, and then trigger the sign H&P report, our deficiency. Once the provider electronically signs the H&P, that's what would automatically complete the sign H&P deficiency. Does that make sense, Margaret and Michael?
I think so.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions about any of the auto-generated deficiencies that we discussed? So MRM for scan documents, HIM for manual deficiencies, ITS through the missing documents button, or that can also be used for PDOC reports. And then you have your OM source deficiencies for the electronic orders. And lastly, the ADM source, ITS or PDOC reports that are generated based on admission. You guys have any questions about any of those?
No, not right now.
All right, awesome. So that will conclude today's presentation. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to either open up a task and your specialist for SCA or HIM specialist will get back to you. So if you guys don't have any other questions, we can go ahead and end this call.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.